Well, hi there. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at Module 13, the causes and categories of unemployment. You can see this lady looking at this board saying hot jobs. And she's like, okay, great, teaching. Okay, I don't know. This is mostly about the natural rate of unemployment and why it can be different in different places. So I didn't talk about that a lot in the lecture, but I do think it's valuable for you to kind of go through this and maybe scan through and look at some of the pictures and graphs and things like that. And you can kind of understand a little bit more. The thing I really didn't talk about was changes in the natural rate of unemployment. So if you want to spend a couple of minutes and skim through that, it'll make a little bit of sense for you at this point. So let's go ahead and take a look at these check your understanding problems. There are three of them. The first one says, explain each of the following. Frictional unemployment always exists. So yes, because people can quit or be fired or enter the labor force. So like you all the time have people who are graduating from college or graduating from high school and things like that, and they're entering the labor force all the time. You have people getting fired all the time, people quitting all the time. So frictional unemployment always exists. B, frictional unemployment accounts for a larger share of total unemployment when unemployment rate is low. That is also true, yes, because, and I guess of course they're true, because unemployment is equal to cyclical plus structural plus frictional. And so if overall this is really low, then we won't have any cyclical unemployment. And so this is a larger share, larger share. So if you think about it another way, if the unemployment rate is very low, we know that we're not in a recession. And so that's why there wouldn't be any cyclical unemployment. Number two, why does collective bargaining have the same general effect on unemployment as minimum wage? Illustrate your answer of the diagram. So it's the same idea as a minimum wage when you have a quantity of labor and you have a wage. And this is something we talked about last semester where you have a supply of labor and demand for labor, and you have some kind of equilibrium wage in the market. But if you had collective bargaining, that's where a union is able to negotiate a contract where the wage is typically higher than what that equilibrium might be, right? So you'd have, a wage contract here, wage contract. And why that could lead to unemployment in a general sense is that you would have a greater supply, right? Think about quantity supplied, a greater quantity supplied than quantity demanded. So it could cause structural unemployment. Number three, and it's the same idea of the minimum wage at root, aside from the monopsonistic labor markets. Suppose the United States dramatically increases benefits for unemployed workers. Explain what happens to the natural rate. Well, the natural rate is equal to structural plus frictional. And if UE benefits go up, we'd say therefore in theory, right? So again, this is more like what does our model predict? It's not set in stone. This is important. If UE benefits go up, then less incentive to take a job. So another way to think about this would be think back to my father, the banker who took a job at Target. If he had really robust unemployment benefits that fully replaced his income as a banker, he wouldn't have had to have gone and gotten the job at Target. So he would have hung out as an unemployed worker for a longer period of time until he found a new job as a banker. But because unemployment benefits in the United States are actually not very robust, he was like, crap, I got to pay the bills. In some states, the unemployment benefits are very, very low, and they are very time limited as well. And so what we see is that in many places, they're difficult to obtain. They don't replace very much of your income, and you're time limited in the United States. So it incentivizes people to go get it as quick as they can, go get a new job. And so we would expect that the natural rate that therefore, if we increase the benefits, the natural rate of unemployment would go up because the structural and the frictional people would kind of hang out and not get a job as fast, right? There's less incentive to go take the first job available to you. Now, let's take a look at the multiple choice. Oops, I'm in trouble here. Person who moved to a new state took 2 months to find a new job experienced what type of unemployment? So that's just somebody who decided I'm going to move across the country and find a new job. That's generic unemployment, so we call that frictional. A. Number two, what type of unemployment is caused by a recession? The business cycle. Remember, recessions, business cycle, cyclical unemployment. C. Number three, a person who's unemployed because of a mismatch between the quantity supplied and the quantity of labor demanded is what type of unemployment? Boy, that's the picture we drew right up here. It's called structural. Just think about the structure of the economy, like literally the building blocks of the economy. So B. Number four, which of the following is true of the natural rate of unemployment? It includes frictional. Yes, it does. It includes structural. Yes, it does. It is equal to zero. No, it's not. Usually natural is about 4 or 5% in the United States. We talked about that in a lecture. So 1 and 2, only D. Number five, which of the following can affect the natural rate of unemployment in the economy over time? So this is something that's actually in this in this module a little bit. It talks about why, why would the structural or frictional unemployments change? And you could do this without reading the module. You just think through it a little bit. The labor force characteristics such as age and work experience, that can make it either longer or shorter periods of time for people to go quickly find a new job. So that could affect the natural rate. The existence of labor unions could affect the natural rate, because if you have more and more labor unions and they're negotiating higher wage contracts, you could conceivably have higher structural unemployment rates. And we do see that in Europe, right? In certain European countries, pretty predominantly, something like France has much more strengthened labor contracts, and they have a higher natural rate of unemployment. The advances in technologies that help workers find jobs. Again, that would affect both structural and frictional unemployment, so that would affect the natural rate. And government job training programs would also affect the natural rate. So, so all of the above would affect them. Because if we retrain workers, that could affect the structural unemployment rate, right? That could be something that changes as well. Let's take a look at number 2, free response. Free response, number 2. Melanie is facing unemployment in each of these situations. Man, what a bummer for Melanie. She's each one. After completing, and so it says, what type of unemployment? Explain. After completing a complex programming project, she's laid off. Wow. Her prospects for a new job requiring similar skills are good. She signed up with a program replacement. She's passed up offers for low-paying jobs. So we would say she is just frictionally unemployed. Frictionally unemployed. And that's because she's got jobs, right? She's just temporarily between jobs. It's not because of a recession or something like that. So. B, when Melanie and her coworkers refuse to accept pay cuts, her employer outsourced the programming tasks to workers in another country. This phenomenon is occurring throughout the programming industry. So this is telling us that maybe there's the greater quantity supplied of programmers in this country than quantity demanded for them in this country. So we would say she is structurally unemployed. Something about the structure of the labor market is affecting that, right? C, due to the current slump in investment spending, so that's kind of keying you in. Investment spending, what is that? That's part of GDP, right? So this is, GDP has gone down. Melanie has been laid off from her programming job. Her employer promises to rehire when business picks up. So it should tell us we're in a recession, and that is cyclical unemployment. Boy, Melanie really did not do well in that problem. All right, hopefully that helped you. See you next time.